Tottenham is very interested in a American player. The US Open Cup gets a TV deal, and we respond to your comments. That and more on Friday's edition of the Morning Kick Around. Hello and welcome into the show. You've made it. This is the Morning Kick Around, where we cover the world's favorite game from the world's favorite country. Coming to you live each Monday, Wednesday, and Friday morning. I'm Robert Kerr. He's Jason Davis. Thank you for joining us. Hope you all are doing well. Happy Friday, everybody. How you doing, Mr. Jason Davis? You're looking pretty handsome in that shirt.
Thank you very much. Yeah, this is a gift from one of our viewers. Jim sent me this. Although you can tell all the way from St. Louis, Missouri. This is a dead soccer club. I collect dead soccer club things.
Yeah.
St. Louis Football Club no longer exists. I'm going to say it in a dramatic fashion. Run out of town by St. Louis City of Major League Soccer. That's certainly how some people feel about the way things went down in St. Louis with a new team that cost a lot of money and an old team that was much more of a grassroots kind of operation. Shout out to Jim. I will say just a little story here. He sent me the tracking number, and I was like, oh, I'm so excited to get the St. Louis Football Club shirt. And I was waiting, and I saw the tracking was supposed to be delivered on Wednesday evening, and I kind of spaced. I was doing other stuff, and I woke up on Thursday. I was like, where's my jersey? Where's my shirt that Jim so kindly sent me? And I didn't have it, and I didn't have it. And then yesterday afternoon, I get home from having lunch with a friend, and there's a knock on my door, and it's a neighbor, and he's like, is this yours? And I said, oh, wait, yeah, I've been waiting for this. Jim got I don't know if we gave him the wrong address or he wrote it wrong, but slightly wrong on the address. The number he put on doesn't even exist on my street. So it landed on this neighbor's porch, and he brought it over. How he knew it was mine, I don't exactly know.
Was it open? Like he saw a soccer shirt and was like, I have a soccer neighbor. It's probably his.
He doesn't know. We don't really communicate like that.
Did it say your name on it?
It did say my name, but he doesn't know me. We had literally never met before. Me and this neighbor had never met before, even though he's across the street and like two houses down. We had never. There's a story. I mean, my neighborhood is very eclectic, and there was a lot of
keep your head down.
There was a lot of clearly some language things were happening in the exchange here. So this was, he was. I didn't even introduce myself in the neighborly way. I was like, "Hi, I'm Jason," expecting him to give me his name back. He did not. He just said, I'm over there. He just pointed to his house. That's me over there. And I was like, all right. And then he left, and I had my new jersey. So thank you to Jim.
Well, thank you, Jim. And thank you to your mystery neighbor for being so gracious and being intuitive enough to do the final mile of delivery for you. We got a great show ahead here on Friday. We're going to talk an American, getting in some interest from England. We're going to talk about the Premier or the Major League Soccer weekend ahead. Open Cup has some exciting news, and we're going to dip into some of your comments, talk about USL, and kind of talk about your responses to some of our recent videos. And if you haven't subscribed already, please do so. Morning Kick Around on YouTube.com. We are growing, and the best way to continue that growth will be for you to subscribe and tell your friends to subscribe too. Follow us on social media at mkickaround on X, Instagram, and Blue Sky. People are telling us we should do TikTok as well, Jason. I don't know if we want to broaden our wings that far. And then also, even more notable, morningkickaround@gmail.com. If you want to write us a note, hence Jim being able to make contact and send Jason this wonderful gift that he has on his back. And if you'd like to support with a little bit of cash, coffee.com/morningkickaround. Thank you to all those who have already donated some funds. And once you have, you'll unlock a extra episode in which we pick our all recent retiree 11. What do you call it? The Ringer 11.
The Ringer
our own
11
version of the Des Moines Menace. You can see that at coffee.com/morning kick around. All right, should we kick some long balls?
Let's do it. Let's get into
Friday's long balls here on Morning Kick Around. Long balls here on Morning Kick Around on Friday, March 28th. Let's lead it right on off. Johnny Cardoso, the American talent playing at Real Betis in Spain,
Yeah.
is getting his confidence boosted by some interest from Tottenham. Last summer, they put in kind of a unique kind of claim. He has a priority option when Lo
Yeah.
Celso went from Tottenham to Betis. And in a ESPN FC article is saying that he's really feeling with confidence. His head's in Betis, but the prospect of going to England has got his confidence up.
He missed out on the U.S. men's national team failure in Los Angeles, the Nations League, had a slight injury, was replaced in that team. So he is not tainted by that failure. Is that a nice way to say it, or is that a mean way to say it?
I'd say in a very individualistic sense for Cardoso, I think he would probably be grateful to not be in that. But as a competitor, to get to the level of professional athlete, he's probably upset that any team that he's related to had a failure.
Oh yeah, for sure. I don't have a handle on Johnny Cardoso as a personality, as a figure within the culture of the U.S. men's national team. My understanding, and this obviously could have changed since the last time I checked, my understanding is that Johnny doesn't have a ton of English. He's a guy who was born in Jersey and grew up in Brazil. So his primary language is Portuguese, and he's probably learned a lot of Spanish being in Seville, in Spain at this point. So I don't know exactly where he is in sort of like his connection to the national team, but that doesn't mean he doesn't care. Right? It doesn't mean that he doesn't have some serious interest in helping the U.S. men's national team achieve things. And every time he's called up, he's accepted, and he's been excited to play. This is good news, I guess. Whether or not Tottenham is the club you want to join right now or this summer, that is an open question. Will there be a new manager, or will Ange Postecoglou still be in charge? You look at the makeup of that squad, and they certainly need help. I think Johnny Cardoso could do a job in the Premier League, right? I do think he needs to improve as a passer of the ball, but we've also said that about Tyler Adams, who has done very well at Bournemouth as deployed by Iraola. So, yeah, I'm good on this. It is interesting that there's like a first right of refusal situation here for Johnny Cardoso and Spurs. I don't know this unique necessarily, but you don't hear a lot about these deals where it's like, yeah, we're not buying him yet, but you can't sell him unless you check with us first.
Yeah, because it's not. I mean, there's been purchases and they get loaned back to the team originally, but I don't really recall. Like, this is almost like Lo Celso went from Spurs to Spain, but then they kind of have just like that. First right of refusal sort of a setup on Cardoso, which I don't necessarily recall. Like, usually it's like a purchase with an option to buy or immediate loan back or something like this. I'm new to me.
Yeah. By the way, this is a conspiracy theory, but we will entertain it. Graham is asking or commenting, Cardoso gets injured right before a winter too many times not to be a coincidence at some point. Now, my memory is not good enough about specifically Johnny Cardoso and his national team history to recall the number of times that an injury has popped up for him just ahead of a national team camp. This one I know, and I vaguely recall another one, but I don't have like data points to back up what Graham is saying. So let's just acknowledge that maybe Johnny Cardoso has sort of soft turn down call-ups. I mean, certainly when, and it might not even be Johnny, right? In this particular case, with the season kind of hitting the stretch run for Betis, right? And they're having a pretty good season in La Liga, and he is a major part of it. And Tottenham eyeing him up potentially for a summer transfer, there just may be like a wink, wink, nod, nod thing happening. Right now, and Mauricio Pochettino has already shown a bit of an inclination to defer when players have these kind of concerns, right? Sending Christian Pulisic home before the Guadalajara match against Mexico, Weston McKennie back to Turin as well. I know those games were not competitive, and these games were on paper competitive games in the Nations League. But if Johnny Cardoso was not going to start, it was not going to be the first choice for Mauricio Pochettino in that starting 11 with Tyler Adams in the team. Maybe Johnny said, hey, I got a thing. I don't feel 100%, but also maybe don't bring me in. I could come in if you really need me, but maybe I stay because I got this potential move coming. Those things happen.
For those who haven't been keeping like the keenest eye on Johnny Cardoso at Real Betis, they are in 6th place in La Liga. And Cardoso, in his second season with the Spanish side, has 33 appearances, 2 goals, and an assist. So a key player for a pretty decent side in Spain, playing primarily the defensive midfield role. So
Yeah.
keep an eye on that. Moving along to long ball number 2 here for Friday. Leo Messi and his bodyguard, or Leo Messi's bodyguard, and Logan Paul have beef. This is one that sounds like it's written for The Onion or something. Why don't you explain that to us here?
Okay, so this is tangentially soccer related, but it's Lionel Messi, so let's just go ahead and dig into it. Okay, you may have seen this energy drink or hydration or whatever it's called. I don't know. It's Prime or something. This
Consumable.
Yes, some liquid that is questionable to put into your body, probably. I don't know. Maybe it's great. People probably love it. This is Logan Paul's energy drink or his hydration or his fitness beverage. Okay, apparently he's heavily involved. And by the way, I will admit that I have trouble keeping Jake and Logan distinct in my brain. They're just one person. The Paul. That's what they are, the Paul. So Logan Paul has an energy drink called Prime. Apparently, Lionel Messi has an energy drink called Mas Plus now. And as you can see, there might be a slight similarity in design and color scheme. I don't know. Okay. Maybe it goes beyond that. Maybe it's beyond just the color scheme. Maybe there's something else going on here in terms of the lawsuit that Logan Paul and Prime have filed against Lionel Messi and Mas Plus. Basically like a cease and desist. Hey, stop doing this. You're infringing on our IP or whatever it is, or you're infringing on our trademarks. And this has led now. I guess this is just a natural way to move forward in this situation. This has led first to this. Let's play this.
Logan, I'm doing this video because a lot
Let me try it again.
stop
Do it
me
one
on
more
the
time.
street. They send me message. I get a lot of comments on Instagram about this fight. So now the reverse is broken. There is no way out. Let's do the fight for the people. On doit le faire pour le peuple. Let's do it.
Okay, so that is.
I feel like I have a somewhat handle on the pulse of the people. And is a soccer player's bodyguard versus a YouTube MMA fighter what the people want?
That is a good question. And I don't know how often Chueco, that guy, that's Messi's bodyguard. In fact, here, let me just illustrate. This is what he often does. There he is right there with Lionel Messi, stopping a very dangerous pitch invader from getting to the world soccer superstar. Now, to give Messi credit, it's like he's running away from this kid who just wants a picture with Lionel Messi. But this is largely what people know him for.
This is body of work.
This is what they know him for. Stopping people from running on the field. And now he, I guess, on behalf of Leo, because of the lawsuit, is challenging Logan Paul to a fight.
Naturally.
Yeah, right. Just of course. Like, what else would happen? They wouldn't. Lawyers? Who needs lawyers? This is now we were involving bodyguards, and of course the Pauls have made their name in part on their fighting. Right? Jake Paul fought Mike Tyson, which was one of the most ridiculous sporting events of all time. That I will admit that I watched. I did. I watched it. I shouldn't have, but I did. And now Logan is involved here, apparently, with this issue with Yassine Chueco. I don't know. Here, before we play the response from Logan Paul, because there is one. I think it just dropped in the last couple of hours because it's all over the internet today. Do you think Messi had to have approval on this? Or is the bodyguard free to do whatever he wants in terms of challenging Logan Paul to this fight that he says people on the street are asking? Maybe that's Miami, by the way. Maybe I just don't understand Miami. Maybe people really are asking him about fighting Logan Paul.
Yeah, I shouldn't have maybe been so snarky about the finger on the pulse of the people. Yeah, maybe people do come up to Messi's bodyguard, tears in their eyes. It's like, you got to fight the internet, the internet MMA fighter Prime guy. You got to fight him. Like, the world will not move on without this conflict. But Messi, will he sign up? Like, Messi's brand is so huge. Like, this doesn't necessarily it doesn't elevate Messi's brand by any means.
Do you think that this...
But it is getting a lot of, actually, now that I think about it, it is getting publicity from Mas Plus. Like, to be fair, I hadn't heard of that drink before.
Right.
Before
So,
this,
so I will give you my theory, but here is Logan Paul's response.
Bro, I heard Messi's bodyguard is talking shit.
I saw that.
He thinks he can take you.
Tell him to get in line, bro. It's an MMA guy who thinks he can box, who thinks he's entitled to victory or attention because he's Messi's bodyguard. I've offered to fly people out before. He doesn't even deserve a fly out. It's like, bro, I'm here in Puerto Rico. If you want to pull up on me in Puerto Rico, you're more than welcome, bro. But when I beat your ass, this is a big when. Not if, when I beat your ass, you got to drink Prime.
All right.
Oh, there's the punishment. He's gonna force the Prime down his throat.
You have to drink Prime. You can't drink Mas Plus, which there's a question. I really have a serious question whether Yassine Tueko, looking at who he is and what he does and his background, whether he would put that in his body, right? Okay. This whole thing feels like a work. This whole thing feels, I mean, Logan Paul is a WWE superstar at this point in his, whatever his career is, right? This feels like it's been written by some WWE writers. And even if they weren't involved directly, it feels like somebody is kind of manipulating a situation. And maybe this is the way to make Logan Paul whole for Messi's side. Maybe they were like, oh, we really don't want to sink money into defending a lawsuit from Logan Paul over this brand infringement thing. We'll just have Messi's bodyguard, who has his own fame because of the internet, because he's Messi's guy, because he's got his own social media platform. We'll just have him fight Logan Paul and make a ton of cash, and Logan goes away happy that he made a ton of cash off this fight, right?
Yeah, Daniel, I think you that's a possibility here. There's definitely some sort of work going on here. Daniel in the comments, so-called celebrities fighting each other as a joke, and credit to these guys, both like to create jobs like this for yourself, like. These are one-on-one sort of jobs. Like, I am the only bodyguard that is allowed to go on a soccer field and be the pitch invader tackler. Like, there's people hired by stadiums and leagues that aren't doing this, or it's a separate job. But this is for an individual player. Imagine if there was 22 player bodyguards running up and down the sideline at all times.
It is a question.
Plus the Paul obviously creating his own thing, from a YouTuber to MMA to a drink mogul. Like, credit to them for carving out their own niche.
I guess.
But this definitely seems like a work. Even that video that you just played of the guy going, I heard Leo's bodyguards talking bleep. And like, that is just like the perfect setup for him to just go on a rant for that. I mean, that, if nothing else, that video is a work.
Yeah, I mean, again, I don't know.
The production value on the Paul video is much higher than the bodyguards.
Well, I mean, that's what they do, right? They make YouTube videos and millions of people watch them for reasons I don't quite get. I'm a little bummed up. People might know my wife is Puerto Rican. I spent a lot of time in Puerto Rico. I love that place. My 4-year-old, is always talking about Puerto Rico. I'm sort of bummed Logan Paul has posted up in Puerto Rico. I mean, he's allowed to, right? And you don't need a passport to travel to Puerto Rico, so go visit and support the economy and all those things.
The true 51st state, if you will.
Man, there's a whole lot of people exploiting Puerto Rico right now, and I feel bad that Logan Paul may be one of those people exploiting Puerto Rico. Maybe he's not. Maybe he's pumping money into the economy. Maybe he's doing that. The crypto bros are worse than Logan Paul, probably. That's probably true. Now, look, let me make this about us and soccer a little bit, because obviously this is a celebrity fight story, and it's barely related to soccer because we've just invoked Messi's name. Just happened to be his bodyguard involved in this, and the energy drink situation. Does this do any good for Major League Soccer when it comes to leveraging Messi? Because I've had enough conversations recently with people who know the game, know people in American soccer, have covered American soccer in depth for years, who have contacts and are saying this whole thing it's not going anywhere. Major League Soccer is not doing enough. The game is not growing the way it could. Messi's behind a paywall. He's not doing interviews. He's not doing anything to help boost the game except just play for Inter Miami when he's healthy. And right now he might not be healthy enough to play many games anymore. So does this do anything? Is it good, bad, indifferent?
It's definitely outside of the box thinking if Major League Soccer has somehow orchestrated this, or Messi's
I don't believe. I don't believe.
But what if he's like, I might be missing from the league for a couple of weeks, so let's keep my name in the circles? Or what if Logan Paul starts showing up to Inter Miami games? And then you get the kind of the internet sensationalist people following.
All of the
is he going to show up at the Miami game?
All of the influencers were there in the beginning when Messi arrived. They all showed up. They went to the games. We got the pictures, the Kardashians, and the whole thing, right?
Yep.
I think some of that has obviously ebbed, and there's not nearly as much attention. Once something stops being new, you have to find other ways in this country, right? Obviously, if Lionel Messi was playing somewhere else, maybe it would be fine because it would be a soccer mad place, and they wouldn't need to juice the influence that Messi has or the impact he has on the game. But there really is a question here. Like, is Lionel Messi going to end his playing career in the United States of America, playing for Inter Miami, and we kind of go, oh, that happened. What did it do for us? Not a whole lot. Or what did it bring Major League Soccer? Oh, they got an Apple TV deal that maybe will be canceled if they can't deliver more than what they've delivered to this point. I mean, again, this is one of those things where it's like, I'm talking about the Paul Messi Tueco thing is nonsense. It's dumb. It's stupid. But it is, if it does anything at all to bring more attention to MLS, it's better than nothing. Because right now it doesn't look like the on-the-field product with Messi is delivering for MLS.
We shall see if there's any suplexes on the sideline in MLS as we move forward.
I think they're talking about a boxing match. That's what they were talking about in the Paul video. It wasn't like, I don't think these guys are going out there and doing like DDTs and pile drivers and power bombs. They don't do pile drivers anymore, but power bombs. I don't think that's happening.
Over under on Logan Paul running onto the field and getting tackled by the bodyguard.
Man, if they did that sort of work, that would be a joke. I would be very mad about it as a soccer fan. But I imagine it would be entertaining. Would
that be on the Sports Center top 10 or not top 10 if that actually
not top 10? It'd be on the not top 10. If it was in the game or during a game, absolutely not on the. Now, if they managed to do it before the game starts, Chueco's just kind of loitering around, keeping an eye on the crowd. Got to protect my guy Leo, and then here comes Logan Paul. He's flying out of the tunnel.
Is that the Paul music?
Is that Logan Paul's music? Oh, man. He's holding a bottle of Prime. He tries to dump it all over Chueco. Oh, man. It could be amazing. We should be writing for this.
It could be fun. We'll keep an eye on that thing. That's totally going to happen. Long ball number 3. After we lambasted Major League Soccer for playing through the international break, but returning to a full slate of games in Major League Soccer, it is that time of the week to pick our Fab 4. The 4 games in Major League Soccer we think might be notable to check out this weekend. So I will pick number 1, Toronto versus Vancouver. And this all-Canadian matchup I picked due to the fact that Vancouver Whitecaps, one of the hottest teams, one of the biggest surprises of the first month or so of the season. They unfortunately lost their unbeaten record during the international break when they didn't have a full slate of players. And they look to bounce back from that against Toronto, which is quite hapless right now. So Toronto, do they get their first win, or does Vancouver return to winning with their full squad?
Obviously, look, the international window hammering some teams means that last weekend, the games that did happen, I'm willing to throw them out. Now, I know they count, and you can't, you can't just wish that away. But I, as a fan or as a viewer, as somebody trying to analyze this league, like I don't want to put a lot into that. Like I don't want to be like, you really take a lot out of Vancouver's performance from the international break. No, Toronto's been bad throughout. So I guess that we have enough evidence to say that they have a lot more to prove, and that this is not necessarily that last weekend wasn't something that you can. That you can throw out for Toronto as much as you might throw it out for Vancouver, who started the season well. I mean, on the balance of the data. So this one's interesting. This is not the most intense version of the Canadian versus Canadian rivalry. That's Montreal and Toronto, but the Vancouver, just like everybody else in Canada who's not Toronto, does not like Toronto as a city, as a place, as a symbol of Canadian power. So it should be interesting.
You get number 2 in our MLS Fab 4?
Yeah, so I was told I'm not allowed to take a certain South Florida team and their matchup because you've called dibs on that. So I guess I will. Hey,
when you make the rundown, sometimes you get to fill in the words there.
That's true. You're right. You started out. You got it down on paper before I could respond. Chicago versus Montreal is where I'm going here. Now, these are not teams that you would say are the brightest lights in MLS. Montreal barely made the playoffs last year, lost in the first round to Atlanta. They just fired their coach. Laurent Courtois is done and cooked.
For reasons.
Well, I've talked to somebody in Montreal who said, Olivier Brett, if anybody's asking, from RDS. And he did lay out a case. The one thing that Laurent Courtois was guilty of is that he didn't really have a sense of what his best team was. He kept moving guys around. He didn't have a handle. This is exactly the kind of thing that got Thiago Motta fired in Juventus.
Theme of the week.
Feels that. So there is a sense that, they need some stability, and they need to bring somebody in who's going to say, okay, this is where you play, and you're going to play there, and picks a team and maybe gives them a chance to get a run together. Meanwhile, Chicago has 3 wins in a row. They started out the season very rocky, giving away goals to Columbus and DC United, but they've beaten Dallas, they've beaten Toronto. Okay, that's not saying a lot. And they beat Vancouver. Right? On the break, they beat the Vancouver Whitecaps. We had that heartwarming moment where Greg Berhalter, the coach, talked to his son Sebastian, who plays for Vancouver, and they made a whole deal out of it. I just want to see if Chicago can keep it going. I don't know that we're going to get a lot of people showing up, because Chicago's got to prove that they can win games and maybe do it at home before people are going to enter that building to go watch them play. But I believe their 3 wins in a row have all come away from Soldier Field. So this is after that stretch of a road stretch where they put together 3 victories. I'm sorry, they had the draw against. Oh yeah, the draw against DC was last time they played at home. 20,000 people, cavernous building. We'll see. We'll see if people show up.
My second pick for MLS Fab 4 is the aforementioned game that you wanted to talk about. Can you guess who it is? It is the team sitting in third place that is undefeated versus a surprise team that is top of the East and the second highest scoring in the league. This is Miami versus Philadelphia. Can you believe it? The number 1 team in Philadelphia versus the number 3 team, Miami. Miami doing very well with the absence of Messi. And in Philadelphia, like I said, scoring a lot of goals and kind of rocking the boat as far as expectations here early.
Yeah, they will also get a lot of guys back after the window, after the international break. They managed to find a way to win without their guys, but the leading goal scorer in Major League Soccer plays for the Philadelphia Union, Ty Maribo. And I know they want to have him back on the field. So this is an interesting one, and I think that Bradley Carnell entered into this job, and people are like, really, Bradley Carnell, the guy who got fired in St. Louis, whose biggest claim to fame is he has high intensity Red Bull energy, high energy soccer. But again, that's Philadelphia's mentality. Jim Curtin had just downshifted a little bit during his last couple seasons. There was obviously disagreement about how young to go in the team for Philadelphia, because Ernst Tanner is a true believer and you play the kids. So here's Bradley Carnell. And if they can do both those things, marry their let's commit to our young players and play high energy soccer and win games, then give Bradley Carnell a ton of credit. I mean, he started well. Until he proves otherwise, he looks like he was a good choice.
And then what is your 4th game here for MLS Fab 4?
I guess we should also note that we don't know if Lionel Messi is going to play in that game for Inter Miami. And there's that. I mean, whether Logan Paul's in the stands or Yassine Chueco has a fight with him, I don't know. But we don't know if Lionel Messi is going to be available.
Also curious to see if Miami's new 18-year-old Ecuadorian striker makes an appearance.
Yeah, they just made a signing, so that's something as well. I'm going San Diego FC and LAFC for my number 4. I mean, this is just the inauguration of a Southern California thing. It could be potentially a rivalry. Obviously, LAFC has a natural rival across town in the Galaxy. The Galaxy are trying to figure things out post-championship and losing Ricky Puig. San Diego has started well. I've seen that Tuki Lozano is going to be available, and according to Mikey Veras, will play some role in this game, so that'll be interesting. They're coming out at Snapdragon to support this team. It's new, it's fun, it's interesting. Let's go to the stadium. Let's go watch them play. I know the baseball team is also underway because we had opening day yesterday in Major League Base, or whatever that was, Wednesday.
Yeah,
Major
Tigers' dreams shattered by that man Ohtani.
Oh, that already happened. The Tigers season is already over because Shohei Ohtani did something. Okay.
Yeah.
But obviously this is a big deal. there are lots of things about San Diego that have made me whatever. I kind of I don't love the logo. It looks weird to me. The $500 million expansion fee and some of the way that Major League Soccer is moving in that way, it makes me uncomfortable. But the fans are showing up, and I'm not going to begrudge the fans an opportunity to support their new team. They've started well. I've talked to Mikey Veras. He's a nice guy. He gave us a little insight into his character and how he sort of handles his job. He mentioned this on the radio show that I do with Eric Winalda. He said, it's only like 8 years ago he was coaching U12s. So he's had this incredible come up to this job as an MLS head coach, and he's doing very well. And I think it's a fun story, whether you like San Diego FC and Major League Soccer's expansion thing or not.
Way to climb the ladder there, though. 8 years, what a climb. And then, so there's obviously famously El Tráfico between the two Los Angeles teams. What could the LAFC versus San Diego in-state rivalry be? Is there some sort of notable thing in the journey between the two, or? And I think
I
there's
don't know. I don't know.
No, all right,
Maybe it has
Chad.
something to do with tacos. Maybe it has something to do with tacos. I don't know. Maybe we figured that out. Somebody. Let's stop using El Clasico as the base for this. It's sort of like how every controversy gets slapped with the gate suffix. This is Tree Gate and Barbershop Gate and Rainbow Gate. No. Stop with that. It's the same thing. We have El Tráfico. That's clever. It's funny. LA is known for its bad traffic. Let's move on from using El Clasico as the base for these rivalry names and figure out something different.
Yeah, let's get some ideas for that rivalry in the chat, gang. As we move along, if you haven't already, subscribe to Morning Kick Around on YouTube. We have hit some goals already, and we are continuing to grow, working our way towards the grand total and trying to crash through that 5,000 subscribers. Let's work towards that. If you haven't subscribed already, please do so now. Follow along on social media at MKickAround, X, Instagram, and Blue Sky. Write us a note. morningkickaround@gmail.com. And if you have a few dollars you'd like to contribute to help us, take care of expenses, get some sustainability to this program, and perhaps even continue the growth, coffee.com/morningkickaround. We're going to take a breath and come right back with today's hot topic here on Morning Kick Around. Friday's hot topic here on Morning Kick Around. The news broke as we were doing the show on Wednesday morning. All U.S. Open Cup matches to be streamed live on Paramount Plus. This is big news. U.S. Open Cup went a long time without any real significant investment. It's gone through some trials with MLS, pulling their teams and kind of dicing back and forth with how many teams are going to put in here, but all Open Cup matches to stream live on Paramount Plus from the third round to the final, with select matches airing on CBS Sports Network and CBS Sports Golazo Network for this year and next year. Big step forward as far as getting a corporate television partner, but I've also seen the pushback is, people were enjoying the free access to it on YouTube as well.
Yeah, I mean, you could be of two minds, right? You could be, hey, make this as available as possible, and obviously YouTube is a way to do that. And I think that first round was pretty enjoyable, and I think there were some pretty decent numbers of people watching games, and it was that unique thing of amateurs versus pros in every matchup in that round, which I think was a good move.
Yeah.
But of course, if you're talking about growing the tournament, if you're talking about making it bigger, if you're talking about bringing more professionalism to the broadcast so that it feels bigger, right? Well, that's a major thing. Like if you set up a camera in a press box at a high school football stadium where one of the UPSL teams plays or one of the NPSL, that's great if you just see it happen, because otherwise you might not. But it doesn't look good. Right? It doesn't look good relative to what we think of when we talk about watching meaningful soccer matches. So this, with Paramount behind it, should help with that. So and you get studio coverage. I mean, when have we ever had?
That's huge.
Yeah, when have we ever had any broadcaster say, "Yeah, we'll take the Open Cup, and you know what we're going to do? we're going to put studio coverage so that you actually get some context for these games, and we'll preview matchups, and we'll tell you about certain players. Like, I really hope we get a lesson, an education in some of these clubs that are still involved, right? The clubs that you wouldn't know about already if you weren't paying really close attention to lower division soccer in the United States of America. I hope that that's what happens out of this. In fact, I will volunteer to help CBS Sports and Galazzo put that stuff together if you want. We can. We're over here. You can ask us to help, of course. But we're going to get things that we've never seen before, I think. And then you can see there the statement, the comment from David Wright, who runs U.S. Soccer's commercial side. Again, the studio coverage, all those kind of things. And in addition to this, there's also just a note, right, that they will provide editorial coverage on CBSSports.com, the Galazzo Starting 11 newsletter, and across the Galazzo America and CBS Sports Galazzo social accounts. Right, so this feels...
That's like wall-to-wall coverage, in a sense.
Yeah, it feels like a move forward, right? Now, again, you can be critical of how they've handled this in the past, right? So let's bring this in, Orange and Black Soccer Cast. All these years, the Federation couldn't find a broadcast partner or a presenting sponsor for the oldest, largest tournament in the country, almost like they didn't try. That is, there's an assumption there that there was an appetite for this. And I don't know, like, there's got to be a line, like, we'll broadcast this, or we'll put this on our streaming platform, and we'll give you $10,000. Like, would U.S. Soccer be like, yeah, do that, that's great? That doesn't feel like the number that you should be getting. And again, something is only it's only worth what somebody will pay for it. So if nobody was willing to pay significant money, maybe U.S. Soccer should have just said, fine, take it for free. There are a lot of things in the way the U.S. Open Cup has been handled that are certainly worth criticizing. That might be one of them, but it's kind of hard to know because we have a chicken and egg problem with this competition, Rob.
Yeah, you took the words right out of my mouth. It's almost like the pro rel. Which one comes first? Is is there interest in it, or isn't there? And is how do you generate interest without attention? That puts you in a very difficult chicken and egg sort of a situation. And to those folks who were saying that, I was really enjoying the free coverage on YouTube and this and that, they still have the first and second rounds. This coverage is only from the third round on. And we just watched a very exciting round one. And then next week, starting on Tuesday, it's the second round. So you get still, unfettered access. And that's where a lot of those pro versus amateur matchups happen. The third round is the big one. The USL teams come in. I
know. I kind of imagined us getting, getting to know some of these clubs and some of these players that otherwise wouldn't get a spotlight because CBS is picking this up, and maybe they're going to do some of that editorial stuff ahead of actually broadcasting games. Right? I think that probably part of this, from a CBS perspective, is that when you get to the third round, you're largely going to have stadiums that are set up to do decent broadcasts, that are already set up to do broadcasts, right? Because all the USL games are broadcast. And then obviously you've got MLS teams and MLS second teams that mostly play in good stadiums for soccer, or somewhat good stadiums for soccer, where this, but you want to see enough upsets and enough little clubs that this isn't just, we're going to take the easy way out, start in the third round when most of this is going to be professional. Now, I'm looking at the second round schedule.
There's some good games.
And look, you've got Westchester SC against the New York Pan-Cyprian Freedoms. One of those teams has to move on to the third round. So one of those teams is going to be on television, like actual, when I say television, I mean modern, in the modern sense. They won't be on CBS, but they could be on, they'll be on the streaming platform. They'll be available on Paramount Plus. Right? FC Naples is taking on Little Rock Rangers. One of those teams is going to be on TV. Des Moines Menace gets Union Omaha. What if they move on? What if they shock Union Omaha, professional outfit, and the Ringers keep going? That could be a big story. Not that I'm wishing that on my Union Omaha friends, because I do have friends out there. But yeah, this looks, it's progress, right? Can beggars be choosers, I guess, is always the question we come to in these situations.
That's a new one. Also, a couple other interesting stuff. We could probably talk about it more last week. There's a lot of local rivalries here. There's Inter Miami 2 versus Miami FC. There's the of in your neck of the woods, Loudoun versus Virginia Dream, Chattanooga versus Chattanooga Red Wolves, Des Moines Menace versus Union Omaha. So plenty to dig into in the second round of the Open Cup. And this might be opening a whole can of worms, but I do have a question for you.
Okay.
I would say since 2012, since NBC became the home from the English Premier League, the NBC's kind of been had a big gravitational pull of like Americans home for viewing soccer. Do you think with all the coverage that they've added and now this, do you think CBS and the CBS affiliated networks becomes like the go-to spot for American soccer viewers?
Well, no, I mean, you pointed it out that NBC is the home of the Premier League, and the way that the way that my perception is the most popular league in America remains the Mexican League, largely broadcast, almost universally broadcast in Spanish. I know ESPN took a run at doing some games in English, but that's a Spanish language product, and that's the most popular league in the United States of America. And then you got the Premier League. Right. If we're talking about television ratings and sort of the culture of it, I mean, like, I'm sure if you got granular, you could argue that MLS is ahead of the Premier League. But the Premier League is not a popular product in the United States of America. And then you get past that and you're talking about Serie A or this or whatever. Champions League is obviously massive, but it's a midweek thing. It happens during the day. Galazzo and CBS have done a great job of collecting soccer stuff, and they've shown a commitment. I'm always wary that the bottom's going to fall out because I've seen plenty of media companies make a commitment to soccer only to change their mind a couple years in when some new executive comes in and goes, "What are we doing with all this?" But for the time being, I mean, I'm the kind of person that has to have all that stuff. I've got season pass, I've got Paramount Plus, I've got NBC, and my wife is going crazy over it. Now, I get to say, hey, it's my job. I kind of got to. But a lot of people can't do that.
No. Yeah, trying to, make up all the reasons why you need 4 different streaming networks is probably something quite a few people have to deal with that aren't, spending their 9 to 5 talking
And
soccer.
look, here's a reason to learn Spanish. I think if you want to watch U.S. men's national team games that are controlled by the Federation, and obviously this time of the Nations League, which was a Galazzo or CBS Sports production, right? So you needed CBS Sports in order to see those games in English. I don't remember if I looked for them in Spanish, but like when it comes to games the United States Federation controls, you have to have Max now, right? Or you have to watch on Turner if you have a cable subscription, which I happen to have a cable subscription because of bundling, but I know lots of people have no cable subscription and only have the internet, so you have to get the streaming package in order to get the games unless you want to watch in Spanish, which again, lots of people don't like to do that because they're not following in the same way. It's not the same experience.
Have you gotten to the point where you almost just mute the commentary and you just watch it because you know what's going on and you just watch it, or is that not an incomplete experience for you?
I think I'm more that I tune it out. Let's say that. My Spanish is not good enough yet to follow every word of Spanish commentary, and what happens is I get hung up on not understanding one sentence, and by that point they've spoken 8 more sentences, and now I'm trying to catch up. This happens in conversation too. Like I'm constantly like scrambling to catch up. Oh, as I hit my microphone. But
you're getting the passion. You're getting the passion. You're waving, knocking over the stuff.
Mi passion. Yeah, I in terms of the English language stuff, you just kind of tune it out. You just kind of like. You're watching the game. I'm not really, I'm trying not to be influenced by because I want to be able to appreciate the game on its own terms. But watching it on mute, that removes a sense and takes me away from the game in a way I don't like. And I know this is maybe something we can talk about later on. And I think it has been done with soccer in this country. But the idea of a commenter-less broadcast, just the natural sounds of the stadium, it's never seemed to work. No broadcaster has ever committed to it because I think people just feel weird about it. But if you gave me a clean feed with just the sounds of a stadium and you had it properly mic'd, I might take it.
I think that they have worked on something like that for very big games where the broadcaster has like 8 different multicasts, like the Super Bowl and World Cup finals and stuff like that. I feel like there has been like option 6 is just nat sound. And yeah, you don't want to lose the chants, the sounds, and the whistles. You want to get that experience, but not be influenced by the commentators. That makes sense. That makes sense. So we shall see. U.S. Open Cup continues with the second round next week, and I'm sure we'll talk more about that come Monday. If you hadn't subscribed already, Morning Kickaround on YouTube.com. We're doing great numbers over there, growing this audience and growing this community. So become part of the MK Ultras by subscribing and getting your participation levels up and encouraging your people to subscribe as well. Follow along on social media at MKickaround, X, Instagram, and Blue Sky. Write us an email, morningkickaround@gmail.com. And if you have a couple extra dollars, you like what we're doing here, you want to help us pay the bills and become sustainable, and then, perhaps grow in the future, coffee.com/morningkickaround. We're going to take a quick break and come right back with some of your thoughts. Respond to some viewer comments on the big question coming up here in just 1 second here on Morning Kickaround. All right, Friday morning's big question. What are the viewers thinking? You're wonderful enough to tune in to the live programs and go to youtube.com/morningkickaround to find our videos. We've been getting a good amount of responses. The MK Ultras are expressing their opinions, so we wanted to kind of reply. There's been some good, additions to our conversations, as well as some questions as well. We'll start off. Where should we start off? It looks like we got in the queue a comment referring to our video, which has got some really good comments. I would recommend which USL team should be in year one of USL Premier. And I know quite a few notable people within soccer watched this and got involved with this too. But if you can, let's make this bigger so I can see who left this comment. Jeriel Xavier provided what he thinks would be his first 16 in year one of Division One for the USL. What do we make of Jeriel's hypothetical year one of USL Premier?
I mean, these are all reasonable picks. I'd have to go back and look at our list. I think we got a little bit of stick because we left Pittsburgh out. I think you argued against Detroit City and have since talked to an owner.
He disagreed with my comment.
He wasn't on board with you taking Detroit City out of the running. Sacramento, Oakland, Phoenix, Las Vegas Lights, New Mexico, San Antonio, Tulsa, and Colorado Springs in the West, says Jeriel. And then the East, Tampa, Pittsburgh, Indy, which there's some thought that Indy 11 may not be a USL team in the not too distant future. I don't have enough knowledge of the inner workings to say that's definitely going to change, that Indy 11 is going to say scoop up a relocated MLS team or something. But we did talk to Simon Evans, who's been covering that story. Obviously, Detroit City FC there, Louisville City, Rhode Island, Hartford, and Union Omaha. Now, again, some of this is about stadiums, right? And I just saw a recent comment that said the stadium standard is stupid, that a team like a team like Sacramento would have a stadium big enough to play in the English Premier League, but don't have a stadium big enough to play in the first division of American soccer. And I don't know if that's should be the standard necessarily, but there's something to be said there.
There's some validity to that argument.
Yeah, and look, Detroit City, I think, has stadium expansion plans or something in the works, right? Louisville can expand their stadium if they need to. It would take all this would take money and time, but they can do it. I think we've got Pittsburgh also has the potential to expand their stadiums. I've been trying to catch up on their movement towards that. It feels like it's a little bit kind of on hold, or at least nothing's developed in about a year, as far as I can tell. Pittsburgh, if I'm wrong, please let us know in the comments. Out west, look, Oakland Roots is playing in the Oakland Coliseum. I think they're good on capacity for the time being. And then, you would have to figure out some way to make those other teams either fit the PLS or figure out if U.S. Soccer is going to say, okay, fine, you're good enough, we're going to let you skate on a couple of these things, or we'll redo the PLS.
I think Juriel has revealed a little bit of his location bias. Who lists the West before the East? I mean, really?
Oh, well, that's left to right. Yeah, that's kind of like reading. You could say it like that.
I suppose.
You know, you could argue that directions and the way we orient ourselves in terms of maps is completely arbitrary anyway, but that's a different discussion for a different day. Let's move on. This is a call for Baltimore from C. Lebo 99. I love Baltimore as an idea for a professional soccer team. There have been a couple of cracks at it. Does anybody remember Crystal Palace, Baltimore? Does anybody remember that one?
Is that a memory hole episode that we gotta do?
Yeah, I think it is. Crystal Palace, Baltimore. People are like, what? That existed? Yeah, it did. Not for very long, but it did. Baltimore's a good shout, though.
Baltimore Blast have done well, so there is a little bit of community there.
I mean, just like a lot of places in America, they've changed, but there's such a blue-collar mentality in Baltimore. I feel like, I mean, it's a football town, it's a baseball town. They love the O's, and they love the Ravens. But, man, it would be nice to see if they could get something off the ground in terms of soccer. And then, all right, let's move on. This is Chris Rogers, the Dirty Gems 822.
Rolled right off the tongue.
USL listening to the fans is huge. This is about the decision to bring promotion and relegation in, obviously. The product is good, exciting, and absolutely can rival MLS once ProRel and the new D1 starts. I live in Maine. We still support the Revs, but Portland Hearts of Pine have taken over. Revs can't sell a ticket. Hearts of Pine have sold out over 90% of the season. I know this is unique to New England, but don't sleep on ProRel being one of the biggest wants for USA soccer fans.
What do you think of this? I mean, is USL listening to the fans, would you say? I mean, obviously the ProRel news came, they kind of gas put on the fire by the fans' reaction to the Division 1 announcement. So
okay.
To a degree they are, I suppose.
Here's what I would say. I think a lot of American soccer fans like the idea of ProRel. But I think a lot of American soccer fans are agnostic about ProRel. Like, ultimately, for a lot of people, it doesn't matter, right? They're not clamoring for it, right? We did our interview with Dan Vaughn this week for the Soccer Disruptors, and we're looking for other people to bring on that are of similar mindsets, right? Whatever their approach to arguing their points might be, similar mindsets about the game in this country. I think there is a very vocal minority of soccer fans who desperately want ProRel. Mm-hmm. I also think that if you are a local and you have a small club or a lower division club in your town, it's definitely appealing to imagine them winning their way to the top division. On my radio show yesterday, Eric Winald and I talked to Seton O'Connor.
I caught that. That was good.
He works on the Dan Patrick Show. He lives in Hartford. He's supporting Hartford Athletic, and he is a massive ProRel advocate. And there are lots of people like that. Again, I don't know they're a majority. I don't know that, again, people, you would say, hey, we're going to do ProRel, and people would be like, oh, that's nice. Yeah, I'd go for that. But it's not like if you ask them, like, do you need ProRel to care about soccer? It's not like they'd be like, yeah, 100%. Yeah, if there's no ProRel, it's, this is terrible. I just think that there's a very wide range of that. So, it's interesting.
Yeah, well, the ProRel, I think the people that are most excited about it, I think that goes beyond agnostic, is those small to medium town folks who really like soccer. And even if they do have a lower league team in existence, that it's almost like, well, if we win this league, what does that then mean? It adds some meaning, and I could see why those people will be beyond agnostic.
Okay, so I think there is a genuine, true believer element to this story. Of course there is. I don't know how much I believe that USL is listening to the fans. That can be one part of it.
Listening
and certainly
to the market.
They think there are enough people who would support ProRel to sort of give them an excuse. But I will say, I will bring in Orange and Black Soccer Cast again. Got to do ProRel to drive up those team league valuations, to drive that buyout price for Major League Soccer. And again, I will just say, without disclosing sources, I talked to somebody yesterday who would have reason to know some of the inner workings at USL, who seemed pretty sure of himself that a lot of this has to do with positioning USL rather than sort of like, ProRel is the way it should be, and we're giving the people what they want, right? So there are a number of things, and I don't want to get anybody in trouble. I'm just saying there can be a lot of things at work here that go beyond just a clear 100%, this is the people's voice being heard. I guess.
Well, we're both doing the whole cover our sources thing because I talked to a person entrenched in USL over the last weekend as well, who said both MLS and USL are both acknowledging the fact that soccer is growing in popularity and they're not necessarily capturing it. So both companies of soccer leagues want to do something to capture.
Do stuff. Absolutely. Try. I'll quote Bruce Arena here and cover your kids' ears if they're around. You don't like this. Try shit. Just try shit. They used to say that about Clint Dempsey. He goes out and he tries shit. That's what soccer leagues and organizations need to do. Okay? All right, here we go. You want to read this one from Neri Christian?
All right, Neri. If we still had to qualify for the World Cup, then Poch would be taking these games seriously. But since we are already qualified, he thinks that these games aren't that important. I wonder what the heads of the Federation are currently thinking after this recent tournament.
Yeah, this is something I've heard talked about a little bit, that because of the failure of the Nations League, Mauricio Pochettino is being slapped with a he's a tourist label, that he's not taking it serious. I doubt that. I doubt that. I don't think Mauricio Pochettino, I think he has enough pride as a coach that he's putting what he needs to, or he's giving a full effort. Now, however, sort of subconsciously, if you don't have to qualify, there is a sort of a different pressure on you, right? If you're not playing, if every game isn't critical to win because it gets you to the World Cup, even if you're talking about, well, we win a Nations League trophy if we win these games, it's not going to feel as important. I mean, what context does Mauricio Pochettino have for the importance of the Nations League? None. And even we are still figuring out how much we care about this, right? I have a shirt of that picture of Christian Pulisic shushing the crowd with his shirt off after he scored a penalty against Mexico in a Nations League final. I think that was the first Nations League final.
Yeah, that was one of my most favorite men's national team memories of recent note.
Gio Reyna's in that picture. All these people are in that picture, and it's like, wow, what's really
that felt like a moment.
Well, yeah, but we didn't take that moment and say, now the Nations League matters. We're still like, yeah, whatever. Or people didn't show up, obviously, at SoFi Stadium for the first game, for either game, for the Panama game or the Canada game, and so it doesn't feel important to us. So I don't buy what Neri Christian is saying here.
I don't agree necessarily. He's like going into it saying, I don't care about this, but at the same time, you do feel that there would be a little bit of just more pressure if it was World Cup on the line.
Yes,
next comments.
Right. And again, that would be a psychology that we cannot account for, because you can't ask somebody, do you not care because there's no qualifying? They're not going to be able to answer that question. Honestly, there are things working in their brain that they don't even understand.
The next one on screen is a kind of a thread on people responding to our Giovanni Reyna transfer rumor piece from earlier in the week. I'll start at the top. Red Devil Dog thinks Gio would be a good fit in a Portuguese or Spanish league. Not sure about Italy or the Premier League for him. What do you think about that?
I think he would be fine in the Spanish league. The way that league plays would be, I think, a good fit for Gio Reyna. I would be okay with that. It's Portuguese, a little less profile, but if he's playing games, I mean, obviously I would prefer it be a place like Benfica or Sporting.
Yeah,
but he's playing games. Then he's playing games. So go to Belenenses or whatever and play. I don't care. Let's go down because we got some more comments. We may not get to all of these. We may save some of these for a bonus show, but go ahead.
The next in the thread, I had a chuckle at this one. Interested to hear what you think of a USL team will sign him on loan and will make a promotion run in 26-27. That's funny from my DNA.
It's not
next
happening,
one
but it'd be great. Yeah.
Yeah, that would definitely put USL on the map in certain circles at least. Thomas, the signings result in an uptick of awareness, sure, but probably a small amount are converted to actual fandom. Moving down the line, Jackie, anytime a club is looking to this one I like, anytime looking to tap into the market and not the player specifically, that's a red flag. Couldn't agree more with this. And I think we talked about this a little bit on Wednesday, but if they want an American player, they just look through the print off of what American players are around and they're like, let's get one of them. That doesn't bode well for what would you say, a well thought out plan or
I mean,
you
who's available that we're not going to have to, first of all, there aren't a lot of players that are worth a ton of money, Christian Pulisic being one of them, American players, but who's available, right? Johnny Cardoso, Tottenham's got first dibs on him. And who else are you really looking at and going in terms of, and you're not just throwing out the door what kind of help you need at certain positions. But I do think it's ridiculous. Like, he's right, or Jackie's right, that this feels like just about marketing, and it feels ridiculous. This is not the kind of thing we want to happen for American players. And yet it would be really weird for a team as successful as Inter Milan has been to say we're bringing in a player and all he's going to do is sit on our bench or play reserve games or get garbage minutes just because he's American and we think we can sell a couple of jerseys or whatever. Like, Gio Reyna does not have enough big enough profile in the United States of America to make that worth it, in my mind. Even if you're not paying a massive transfer fee, it's still just a wasted roster spot.
Should we do one more before we call it a day? Let's bring up one more. Let's bring up one
Okay.
more comment.
Well,
That's the red flag comment. And Andy Wells 8894. I think a lot of European fans may not want to come at the moment. Your government really wants to make us enemies. This is a change of topic. This is talking about will everyone be able to travel to World Cup 2026?
Yeah, we did a video on this. Iran qualified for the World Cup. Iran is not a friend of the American government. Never really has been, but certainly isn't now at this point in time. And the idea is that there might be a ban on travel. Not a, hey, well, it's case by case, but like a literal ban on travel. And if that applies to teams, it's really bad. But it could obviously apply to fans. And there are plenty of European nations that have issued travel advisories about the United States of America. I mean, how stringent, how strong those messages are is maybe a thing we could pick apart if we had more time. We're not going to do that. But in general, it's not good. Like, it's just as a general thing, it's not good when countries that we think of as nations that should have pretty easy travel back and forth are choosing to tell their citizens, hey, maybe don't go to the United States. You could end up in a detention center, or you could be rejected at the border or whatever. This does not line up for a great World Cup, Rob. Like, I can't say that I'm enthusiastic about the World Cup right now. There's a lot of elements to that. The national team performance in the Nations League is certainly one of them. I won't lie, but there's also this. There's also this sense that this is not going to be the party that we expect during a World Cup.
Yeah, it will. It's definitely a unique moment in history, and quite the time to be inviting the world for international events. But we've been getting great comments. The MK Ultras have done a really great job of adding a lot to this conversation. As we say, Morning Kick Around is an interactive show. When we do the live shows, we bring in the comments, and I think we're going to do more of these comment reactions. So we might pop over and after the show and record a bonus, and I think we might start making this more of a regular thing of bonus shows responding to your comments, because we've been getting a lot of them and we only want to add more voices to the conversation. Thank you everyone for tuning in, and thank you for everyone who has subscribed to Morning Kick Around. Go to Morning Kick Around on YouTube, hit the subscribe button, tell your friend to do the same. Follow us on social media at MKickaround, X, Instagram, and Blue Sky. Write us an email, morningkickaround@gmail.com. And if you'd like to donate some money to help support the show, you can do so at coffee.com/morningkickaround. All right. We will be back on Monday and plenty of soccer to take in until then. So until then, everybody, please enjoy your soccer.